Hi, you've reached the DTC Hotline. Please leave a message after the beep.
All right, everyone, welcome to the DTC Hotline. Call or text 866-DTC-2263 to get your burning eCom questions answered. Our operators are standing by. Now, we've got coming in live from CTC HQ in Costa Mesa, California, Mr. Tony Chopp the Chopper, our VP of Paid Media here at Common Thread. He'll chop it up. Next to him is CTC's VP of eCommerce Strategy, Mr. Luke, the Weatherman Austin, the Weatherman because he's so damn good at forecasting. What's going on, Luke?
I am ready to jump into the most burning questions that exist out there. Tony and I, the Chopp Man, are here for it.
That's right. All right. So here's how this works. So we get questions from listeners as well as questions from members of our Admission, which is our e-commerce training subscription service here at Common Thread. So we get those questions. We let these two mad dogs off the leash with them. So I'm not going to waste any more time. Let's go into our first question. And guys, this question is one that we get from a lot of people a lot of the time, particularly with smaller accounts, but also this can be an issue with larger ones as well, which is that my cost caps aren't spending despite the fact that I'm adding lots of new creative. What should I do next?
Ooh, I got a hot take.
Okay.
You don't have enough data. You don't have enough signal. So hot take, we love 7-day click, super tight attribution. If you're not spending significant amount, $50, $70, $100,000 a month, you need to look at something like 7-in-1 to get more signal into the platform. And so you don't burn yourself, you need to get into incrementality testing to understand what the impact of that is on your target setting. Hot take. What do you think, Luke? Did I just light a bunch of money on fire?
It's fantastic. I'll build upon that foundation. No disagreement there. And Richard, who is this question from?
This is from just one of our Admission members. So this particular one, and I will say this is aggregated across a lot of Admission members because, again, for smaller brands, they run into this issue, particularly with smaller budgets. So yeah, so I think from that lens, like, what advice would you give?
Yes. So a lot of creative. That phrase right there, everyone would define differently. For some people, a lot of creative might look like 50 ads a month. For others, it might look like 500. For other brands, it might look like 5,000 ads per month. Look at some of the brands out there in your industry or vertical that you are seeing as successful, you aspire to be like, or are growing to be. Look at what's running in their Facebook ad library. Look at the volume of ads that they're running. You can do this through a few different ways, but ads library is a great way to get there. And you'll likely see hundreds of active ads within their accounts. And then what we see is for the brands that are consistently putting up profitable growth on Meta, there are thousands of ads that they're launching every month that's contributing to that. So a lot of creative means very different things. I would wager that for most people that feel like they're launching a lot of creative, if they were to stack it against some other competitors in the space, they likely aren't close to the level of creative and the volume output related to those brands. So give your campaigns more signal, like Tony said, and then give them more creative. And then the last thing I would add in is, once you've done those things, you may not be able to media buy or creative your way into the outcome you're looking for. There are other signals at place in the auction. One of the core inputs in the Meta auction is expected conversion rate on every click that you're getting out there. So you may be seeing high interest, high click-through rates, all the things leading to a low ECR in those ads, and the campaigns are being throttled as a result because Meta sees a low expected conversion rate from each of your campaigns. That is going to be more related to the offer strategy, where you're driving people, how cohesive the landing page destination is to your specific ad landing page. Do you have specific funnels built out? Is everyone just going to a generic collection page? Is there a bundle or an offer that you could be positioning to change the expected conversion rate equation in a higher lever impact outside of giving the campaigns more signal, giving them more creative volume?
Okay. So actually that leads nicely into the next question that we have here, again, from another Admission member who was asking the question, what's the best tool for competitor espionage in this space, right? So you mentioned, for instance, Meta Ads Library, like looking into getting a sense of the volume that your competitors are pushing based on what's in there. But what other tools exist? What do you use to get a sense of what's going on in the space more broadly?
I find myself going to the ads library like first and foremost. So I know that's not a hot take. That's like an anti-hot take.
Yeah. So there are a number of tools out there that could do competitor insight that'll aggregate aggregate search trends across the category, that'll look at the meta ad library. If I were to start right now, what I would start with is a deep research prompt on ChatGPT o3 with my specific brand, the category I'm in, and getting as much data and insights on competitors as possible. And then from there, go deeper on, okay, looking at the meta ads library for each, looking at the socials for each, looking at key search terms. And when I go into Google search, what their SERP looks like and the competitors in that space. And then I'd go down the road, start to look at their landing pages and the funnels that they have cooked up on that side of things. But to get the highest level window into the things that I go deep in, ChatGPT o3 deep research against your brand and competitor set, then from there go deep into, okay, this specific brand, what are the ads they're running on Meta? What landing pages are they sending those to? What sort of bundles and offers are they running in the back end? Okay, that brand or this category, who's showing up in Google Shopping, who's showing up in the SERP? What does that competitive space look like that I'm actually up against? To get a more tactical insight and glean insights on, okay, this is the landing, what my landing page strategy could adjust to. This is the creative diversity I'm missing on Meta relative to these folks, and go deeper from there.
Yeah. Tony, any thoughts there?
Yeah, you made me think about you mentioned the search stuff. The Google Trends report is pretty interesting. So you can overlay like keyword volume data for several keywords. I think you can put 3 of them in there. So you put your brand in there and several of your competitors based on that GPT-03 research. And the other thing that the Google Trends the platform outputs is like spiking keywords or like really rising trends, which we find useful to sort of spot things that are becoming spicy, if you will.
Love it. All right. Okay, so let's move on to, again, this is sort of another strategic question. This is from an admission member who has a home goods business, and this particular business has a very poor LTV. And his question was around, what do I do to improve it? Which really, I think, then pushes into the broader question of, like, if you are in a situation where LTV is going to be a slog to push for, particularly this guy's home goods, high AOV, not really a lot of reason to subscribe to anything or to replace it within 2 or 3 years if he's making it properly. So in that situation, what do you do? What do you think?
Don't focus on trying to increase your LTV. You're in a product category that has very specific buying behavior related to it, that trying to alter the repeat purchase dynamics within that is a very challenging problem that is going to require a lot of effort for very minimal change in terms of the repeat purchase rate and the LTV. Rather, understand the industry you're in and the buying behavior related to it, and lean into the opportunities that gives you. You don't have LTV, you don't have the repeat purchase rate. What you have is a high AOV product that is primarily first-time acquisition. Having a high average order value is a strength in and of itself, right? Like, it allows you to do a lot of things in terms of the acquisition costs that you're able to pay for a net new customer. And likely this brand has a pretty wide catalog in terms of number of items that they can sell within the first purchase. So, and side note, the LTV, the first 30 days is the highest impact, has highest impact on LTV over a longer time period. So brands with high LTV, they're realizing the majority of that within the first 30 days anyway. So think about how you can increase the marginal value of each of your initial orders by ways to increase the free shipping threshold, by getting people to add more products to cart, which is going to allow you to spend more on first-time customer acquisition, to when someone buys X product in this category, they're going to get a discount on this product when they add to the cart as well. Like, there's a lot of different ways you can splice that, but focus on how am I going to improve the marginal outcome of my first-time customer acquisition orders, and then what is the best distribution mode to get there. I'll give like another example that's really a tangent in terms of the product category, but could be helpful to think about. So we work with hat brand that many of us know. Similar story. It's all first-time customer acquisition for them. Very, very low repeat LTV, and that's what you'll see from most footwear brands as well. So they've realized that, and they are world-class in first-time customer acquisition by launching net new products in new collaborations with sports teams, licensing, brand collaborations, etc. But how they figured out this is going to be a first-time customer acquisition product. So the way that we need to win is we need to find ways to break into net new customer audiences in a really effective way. How we're going to do that is we sell hats. but now we sell hats that's licensed with this sports team. So I can break into this audience in this specific geographic area. We sell hats that are co-branded with this customer base that is workwear or Western wear. And now I'm into that category. So find ways to do that through artist and design collaborations for your home goods, right? And getting into their pockets, collaborating with them on co-branded products. But first-time customer acquisition is going to be where you realize the value. Focus on winning that game. You're not going to change the dynamics of a customer buying behavior in a product category where it's baked.
Yeah, that makes sense. Tony, any thoughts there?
Yeah, I think that's all right. Like, play to your strengths. I guess the thought that was playing through my head as we were talking about is there can be differences in LTV based on the product or the product category specifically. So, like, for example, like if you're selling a couch or whatever, yeah, there's probably not a lot of LTV off that. But you said home goods. So, if they're selling like, we worked with a brand for a while that sold like cool, like dishware, like flatware and stuff like that. And I think there is more LTV sort of in that space. So I would ask some questions about the product mix itself or the category mix. And I agree with everything that Luke said, that sort of play to your strengths, but I think it's also worth asking that question like one level deeper, like as opposed to the LTV of my business is bad. Like, what is the LTV at the category level? And I think there's potentially some, advertising strategies or considerations based on that. Like, I give you one more analogy. Like, let's say you sell shoes, right? And one pair of shoes you make makes people jump 10 times higher, and the other pair is made of concrete. One of them is going to have a much higher LTV. So the product matters in this particular example.
Mm-hmm. So sorry, wait, clear that up. So the concrete, which one's going to have the higher LTV?
Well, I'm assuming the ones that make you jump 10 times higher.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're saying essentially what you're saying is like one pair of shoes is good and the other pair sucks or something like that. Yeah. Or what's the like? Okay. Yeah. That makes sense.
It's a terrible hot take. Yeah. My point is that LTV is a function of like how much people want to buy more of the products that you sell.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense.
Also, the AOV, obviously, like people don't buy couches like every year. So
right. Yeah. So I mean, one other thing that like I've thought about with this, and I've talked with Taylor about too, has been the idea of like expanding into a product line that is kind of symbiotic with your product, but also has like some sort of like subscribability element to it. Like one example would be like you sell headlights or whatever, which is a low LTV product, but then you also sell the batteries. The batteries are high LTV product. So you could sort of expand the product line with that sort of thing. Does that?
Yeah, I mean, we got, Luke, you probably know the one I'm thinking about. They sell a pet product, which is a single purchase, but then they got into a subscription like software product to go along with it, like an app that actually looks at the analytics from this product. So that's exactly what you're talking about. They developed an ancillary product to sell alongside the single, like the product that's like a one-time purchase, and that's been very beneficial for them.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, it's interesting. It's a very much a creative exercise. Like what makes sense? What do people buy? How do people treat the specific product? That sort of thing. Okay. Hey everyone, I just wanted to take a few seconds here to talk to you about Admission, our membership program here at CTC that gives you access to one-on-one consultations with our growth experts, as well as weekly live events and access to our gated library of e-commerce trainings. This is the best way to work with us here at Common Thread Collective if you're in the 6 to 7 figure range. Now, to get started, all you have to do is book a call with me to talk more about it at youradmission.co. That's youradmission.co. All right, back to the show. Let's jump into, again, some more like meta, kind of like tactical stuff. So this is a question that we get a lot from a lot of different admission members, just people generally. Particularly,
let's go up.
Yeah. Why do my ads suck? But this is like particularly like as the Andromeda changes have come through, a question that we get a lot is like, when is it worth it to create a new campaign as opposed to just throwing more creatives in the same campaign?
I love this question.
Yeah.
When you need a different setting, that's the answer to the question.
Yeah.
So by different setting, I mean bid or budget, right? And you need a different bid or budget setting based on some sort of unit economic consideration. So like AOV or margin is a really obvious example. Let's go back to the home goods one. The couches need a different campaign than the pillows. Now you could do it at the ad set level too. So there's a little bit of nuance in how, in like structurally how we're talking about that. But the reason for a different something net new is because you need to use some functionality in the platform that's like at the setting level. That's my take.
Yeah, Luke.
Yeah, I would simplify it even further. The bid is the main setting that you would need a separate campaign for, because the budget, once the bid is set, uncap the budget as long as your inventory can withhold that. Let the bid be the constraint around the volume. And so as soon as you need a new bid that is related to unit economics around the product or a different offer that you're pushing, right? You have one funnel that's pushing pillows, but it's buy one, get one half off, and the other one is pillows, but it's buy two, get the third free or whatever. Okay, separate offers around differing unit economics around each of those funnels that requires a different bid, separate out the campaigns. If no bid different, Meta knows where to spend the money better than you do.
Yeah, right. I mean, I think like one of the impetus behind this question is like a lot of people think, well, if I'm targeting returning customers, should that be a new campaign? If I'm targeting two different
setting,
but it's a different bid, so that it's a great example, but the framework is the same, which is if you're running an acquisition campaign oriented around new customers, how you should be setting your ROAS target is based on what your acquisition or AMR target is, or your return on first order, adjusted by your incrementality factor for that acquisition campaign. So for Meta, on a 7-day click window, baseline incrementality factor is 120%. If you run incrementality test yourself, then you have your own factor, but you're adjusting your profitability target by the incrementality factor for acquisition. Retention campaigns have a different incrementality factor. They have a lower incrementality factor than acquisition campaigns. Our baseline, based on our data set of tests, is a 60% incrementality factor for retention campaigns on Meta 7-day click. So that means your ROAS target is going to be twice as high for your retention campaign than it is for your acquisition campaign. Thus, you need a separate campaign because the bid that you have, whether it's a ROAS goal, cost cap, or bid cap, is going to be different for that campaign.
Right. So another sort of angle people take on this, or another form this question takes, is around the creative, which is like I'm selling the same product, but I'm targeting a different audience with it. It's not necessarily new versus returning, but it's like you were saying, Western wear versus just straight up baseball or whatever the case may be. Now, in those situations, what it sounds like we're saying here is that there would be no bid change, so they would all end up in the same campaign.
You could do it at the ad set if you just for the purpose of organization, if you want to keep it clean.
Okay, that's an interesting take too. Just for the sake of your own sanity, putting them in different ad sets so you can just at a glance see what's what. Okay, final thing on this, because this is also a question we get a lot. What if you hit your creative's limit?
Call Meta.
Tell 50 or whatever it is.
Tell them to raise it.
Yeah, call your Meta rep.
Yeah, because there's limits that exist at the campaign level, and then there's limits that exist at the account level as a whole as well. So the account level limits, I think is a Meta thing. In terms of the campaign level limits, in terms of what type of campaigns you're using, then launch a new campaign. I don't think there's anything to be worried about there, right? There's no sort of like dogmatic stance as it relates to not having a new campaign related to it. If more creative, as much creative as possible, if that necessitates a new campaign because of the structure that you're using, as long as you're using ASC and optimize towards those campaigns, launch the new creative. Don't withhold launching the new creative for the sake of not launching a separate campaign.
All right. Okay, let's switch to a couple bigger picture questions here. Well, actually,
which is also a funny thing that there's a creative limit, and like every like word out of the Meta platforms in our mouths is like more creative. Whatever. Side note.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was 150. Now it's 50, right? Do you have any sense of why that is?
We observe different limits in different accounts, and I'm not totally sure.
Who knows? It's always a black box. Okay. Well, actually, one quick tactical one, because I think this is just worth getting to. If my highest volume campaign is performing, is it worth it to switch it to cost caps anyway to get more efficiency?
Oh, This is hot take territory right here.
That's right. Who wants to dive in?
Go ahead.
So, well, there's no, don't turn it off would be the short answer. Keep it going, and any new campaigns that you launch with bid constraints against them set against your business goal with inflated budgets, but adjusting that campaign, but here's the more nuanced answer. Is like there's a couple problems I have with the question. Like the campaign's working, but should I adjust it for it to be more efficient? There's a lot tied up in there. There's a whole sort of line of questioning that I would have to clarify which sort of like it's working, it's driving purchases for me, but I would like it to be more efficient than it is like sort of what it feels like. So anyway, without knowing the context of those questions, I'm assuming that campaign is operating at your profitability target that's adjusted for incrementality. If it is, don't keep it going, but new campaigns launch with bid constraints set at that target with inflated budgets, and over time they're gonna get more volume as you feed them more creative, and they get more traction behind them, and the problem will sort of take care of itself, is my perspective.
Yeah. All right, Tony, let's hear your hot take.
Well, I guess it's the same thing as Luke. Like, why are you calling us? Like, you got a highest volume campaign that's working, but like what is the impetus for the change, I guess, other than curiosity? So, but same thing, I wouldn't turn that off. In fact, I've seen a lot of damage be done by doing that sort of rip sting, try to move from one ideology to another. This game doesn't work that way. These are all like tools in the toolkit. So yeah, I agree with everything that Luke said, in the sense that leave that thing cooking, go build some new stuff, cost control it, work your way into that. Ultimately, what you're going to end up with is more control. So the problem with highest volume campaigns is they're wild.
Yeah.
So maybe that's like, if I were to like read deeper into the question, maybe that is actually the root of your problem. Maybe it's working today, and last week it wasn't, and on Black Friday it works great, and then for a month in the summer it's garbage. So yeah, I think heading in the direction of sort of cost control bidding is going to require more energy and more effort, probably, and definitely more creative fuel, but it will yield you more control. Yeah,
it'll be more consistent ultimately. Yeah, I think the context of this, to answer some of your questions there, Luke, was around like this is performing it's at target in terms of efficiency, but would it be more efficient somehow? Is there like some untapped margin that we're not getting because this isn't being switched over to cost caps or whatever?
Yeah, that would be and yes, like it's a good, like, to that question. Yes, that would be our perspective. Is in a longer time horizon, there is going to be more margin upside that you can capture by having this constrained against a bid that's adjusted for incrementality, and then an inflated budget against that, because you're going to get delivery that's going to fluctuate against your efficiency target, rather than consistent delivery no matter what it is, right? How highest volume is going to deliver the budget in full every day, regardless of the outcome. So yes, that's why we'd say launch all your new campaigns against a bid constraint, because in the long haul, that's what we've seen lead to better outcomes. Now, if that campaign is a foundation of your account, keep it going while you build up that foundation. Over time, that stuff will become the bid constrained, inflated budget stuff will become the majority of what's driving the account. The other one will slowly die off, and you won't have had to risk the downside on the front end.
Cool. All right, let's switch to a couple of bigger picture questions before we get out of here. So the first is, just generally speaking, how are we at CTC using AI tools right now? And then more generally, what is both of yours, general feeling on the future of AI in e-commerce?
So I think still there's the idea that AI is coming for the production layer, and initially that was where most of the conversations were happening around. AI is going to come for production, and ChatGPT can now do image generation, so you don't have to pay designers and you can produce ads that way. That's not our experience of it. Our experience is AI is coming for the strategy layer, enabling enabling smart people to have more output and be even smarter by leveraging AI capabilities. And so we are being relentless with how we think about AI enabling the production layer and executional things in terms of making design output quicker. So we're leveraging tools in that process, which has led to reducing the cost per ad output that we can develop. We're looking for ways for it to get after building out campaigns in Meta through technology. So there are ways we're going after that, but where we have been focused and been realizing more of the value related to AI's enablement of the work that we do on behalf of our clients on a day-to-day basis is in the category of strategy and not production, the majority of the time, which is that it is enabling better thinking, deeper thinking, but it's also enabling us to take the aggregate data set that we have of hundreds of DTC e-commerce brands, and instead of just sort of aggregating the data and distilling those insights and reports and things like that, we can go way deeper in analyzing hundreds and hundreds of reviews for the history of your brand and creating audience personas against them, leveraging AI. That would be hours of someone's work, like to be able to sift through that much data and come up with the audience personas and strategies. As an example, we're leveraging it in the forecasting and planning process by having AI look across years of marketing calendar events and synthesize what type of the impact that different types of events have on your forecast in each of the marketing calendars, where it's taking the strategy work to a whole nother level, increasing the impact of it and the output that already smart people can have on the brands that we work with. So that's we're looking for opportunities everywhere, but that's where we've seen most of the value realization thus far.
Tony, how about you?
Yeah, I think the thing that I'm sort of anchored into right now on the whole AI premise is like the context, like the source data matters. Yeah. And so I've been having this experience recently, using GPT for a while now, and then over a couple months ago, I started using Google's tool Notebook LM, and the key difference between these two products is, GPT sort of runs everywhere for its sources. You can feed it files, but still it kind of goes everywhere. And Notebook LM is like confined to the source data that you feed it, right? Yeah. And the source data that you feed it can be really disparate. It can come from all sorts of different places, text and PDF files, images, connects to Google Drive, everything. But the end result is that it sort of combines the thinking power of the LLM technology with the very specific source data that you give it. And I think this is a metaphor of what we're trying to build into Statless, and what Luke's describing, where we're connecting the dots. We're using AI as the glue and the analysis and the strategy piece, but it's really, really specific to your source data, your business's source data that we have in Statless, and that we go through this incredibly laborious labor of love to get to a really high level of data integrity, that we understand how you think about your costs, how you think about your revenue. So yeah, I think, like, generally speaking, the sort of broad promise of like AI does everything all the time, I think is, I'm sure everybody here that's listening to this and each of you have had the experience of using GPT and kind of like having it go into some sort of weird rabbit hole that's like, wait a minute, this got off track somehow. where I see it going for CTC and the tools that we're building is the starting point really matters. The context, the source data is sort of the root principle that makes it useful. And then to Luke's point, it does a great job of synthesizing all of that data and relating it to strategy concepts and CTC frameworks and how we think about strategy. So it's really good at processing tons of information. It's just, I think it's really important, and it's really important. It's really high in my mind that what it's processing, what it's working on is hyper relevant for the questions that we're asking.
Yeah. Okay. Well, that's a good note. Like, it's only as good as what you feed it, or if it's being fed the right things, it's going to spit out the type of information that you need. If it's not, then it's probably not, I guess, is maybe the way we could think about it. Okay, cool. One last question, and then we'll get out of here. And this is a question that we got a few days ago from an admission member who was asking something that I think is on everybody's mind, and we'll get both of your hot quick takes on it, which is, when is the e-commerce industry going to get better? Things are pretty bad for everyone right now. Do you guys see any hope on the horizon? I'm sure you do, but let's throw it out to you guys. What's your take on where we're at right now?
I mean, what do you mean by better? Like, 'cause we're out here winning, but what I can tell you is it's not going to get any less competitive.
Yeah.
No way. In fact, quite the opposite. I think it's going to get more competitive. At least, for sure, it's going to become more competitive. So I think what that means to me, at least, is like back to my point about like building in AI systems to enable like tools and technologies for the folks at CTC to deliver these outcomes. Like, this is the only way to win in this fight, as far as I can tell.
Luke, what do you think?
We don't have any signal that shows us there's going to be any meaningful change in terms of the market conditions, the demand, less competition in the space relative to where we've been. So we're approaching the rest of this year and heading into next year the same way that we've been approaching these recent months and this past year or two, which is every dollar, every day needs to be accounted for and tracked. And the brands, the standard and the bar has been raised, because when the cost of capital is not next to zero, there's much less margin for error. There's much less liquidity available. And then to Tony's point, the barrier to entry is lower than ever related to competition entering into the market. And so that's just going to perpetuate as technology and AI continues to enable that workflow. So what we're seeing is the winners are winning more, but there's more losers right now as well. And that dynamic is going to perpetuate from our perspective because of the market condition, because of what we see in the macro, which is not a signal that, in 3 months from now, things are going to be massively improved in any of these categories. And so our approach and perspective is we are continuing to try to make the tools and team and strategy that's available to the $100 million, $200 million, $500 million D2C e-commerce brands available to the $10 million brands, the $5 million brands, $30 million brands, and everywhere in between, because the bar is higher than ever. So the operational excellence, the forecasting, the planning, every dollar, every day, the creative output necessary, it's just higher than it's been. And so our goal is to equip through the experience of the people here, through what we're seeing work well and not work well in our data set of brands, and then through our ability to operationalize ideology and technology, equip every brand with having that level of skill set, because that's what's needed to operate at the level of the tools that the $100 million brands have if you're a $5 million brand.
Yeah, that makes sense. So the idea is like the sensation that people have, maybe that things are uniquely difficult or whatever in this time, is maybe just the sensation that things are not as easy as they were in COVID, maybe something along those lines. Because obviously there's macroeconomic factors.
That was a free for all.
Yeah, exactly. Or I mean, and even before that too, when there wasn't as much competition on Facebook or whatever, it's like this is kind of the new normal. And despite the macroeconomic factors that may or may not play a role over the next 3 to 6 months, the basis of like, yeah, you just have to grind for every dollar every day, that's not really going to change. You just have to keep pushing forward with best practices, and that's where you need to go.
And to add on to that, like the bar is higher outside of the media buying and creative output and operational excellence, sort of the core growth engine. The brands that are winning, the level to which they are investing in the ideology and the planning around their biggest product launches and marketing moments and brand collaborations, the level of thoughtfulness and complexity, the levels to which that game is being played is higher than ever as well. And we're seeing this play out across the board. So I think that it represents opportunity for some to continue to eat, who have the ability to be able to flex into that sort of workflow, to be able to continue to grow in that way. The threat is for those that you can't just run the same playbook that you ran 4 years ago, right? Because everyone else is running. Everyone else is trying new things, testing new things, and operating at a higher level. So that's what's necessary if you want to be able to compete.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I want to circle back to that because Luke mentioned this earlier. Like, there's lots of things that you can do, like tactically to burn a lot of money at the end node of this system, the media buying system. And strategically, there's things that you can do right, but the media function. To your question about it being really hard, like what I'm hearing is like potentially somebody that's really focused on like what do I do tactically in my Meta Ads account, and the answer is like for sure a big part of what Luke's talking about, like product design, offer strategy, story, and brand, and those are big levers. Now, tactically in the media account, I'll tell you what we're doing. We're running incrementality tests to understand the impact of Meta, so that we can push our min ROAS targets down, so that we're beating everyone in the auction. Like tactically, that's an example of like really sharp tactical pressure that CTC is out here putting on all y'all. To be honest with you, so
Yeah, no, that makes sense. All right, cool. Well, appreciate the insights, guys. I think we got a wrap for now. So that's going to do it for this week's episode. But for everybody out there listening, remember, if you want your questions answered on the pod, just call and leave us a voicemail, or you can text us at 86. I'll have Mickey cut that. Leave us a voicemail or text at 866 DTC 2263. That's 866 DTC 2263. And we might play or read your question on a subsequent episode. We would love to hear your actual voices, get your actual questions in here from you, the listeners, and then also we'll continue to grab them from our admission members as well. But until next time, folks, welcome to the DTC Hotline. We would love to hear you on it. And on behalf of Tony the Chopper and Luke the Weatherman Austin, I'm Richard, signing off. Take care.
call us.